The morning assembly hall buzzed with the usual chatter of 1,000 different species trying to communicate before classes started. Hannah sat near the middle section, her human ears picking up at least 7 different languages being spoken around her. She'd been at Galactic Academy Station Zenith 7 for almost 2 years now, and she still found the diversity amazing. Students with scales, feathers, fur, and things she didn't have words for filled the enormous room. The lights dimmed. Headmaster Vrockton glided onto the stage, his crystalline body refracting the spotlights into rainbow patterns across the walls. He was a Quiltharian, one of the oldest species in the galactic community, and his voice resonated through the hall without needing speakers. Students, faculty, honored guests. Vrockton began. Today marks a historic moment for our institution. Hannah perked up. Historic usually meant interesting. We have been selected to host the first creche student ever to attend a multi-species educational facility. The hall went dead silent. Then chaos erupted. Students jumped from their seats. The Pelvorians, rabbit-like creatures with enormous ears, stampeded toward the exits. A group of Civian students who looked like floating jellyfish changed colors rapidly from calm blue to panic red. Even some of the larger predator species looked uncomfortable. Order! Order! Vrockton's voice cut through the noise. This is a carefully monitored diplomatic initiative. The student is a juvenile and poses no threat. No threat? Someone shouted. The creche are apex predators. They eat species like us. Hannah frowned. She'd heard of the creche, everyone had. They came from the outer fringe, a region of space most civilized species avoided. Stories said they were unstoppable hunters with 4 arms, claws that could tear through starship hulls, and compound eyes that could see in 17 different spectrums. They were the monsters parents used to scare children into behaving, but Hannah had also learned something during her time at the academy. Most scary stories about species turned out to be exaggerated. The Grolvians were supposed to be mindless eating machines, but her lab partner, Krev, was a vegetarian who wrote poetry. The Zethans were called heartless conquerors, but they just really liked organizing things efficiently. The student will arrive this afternoon, Vrockton continued. I expect you all to demonstrate the values of this academy. We are here to learn, to grow, and to build bridges between species. Dismissed. The assembly broke up into nervous clusters. Hannah walked to her first class with her friend Minho, another human exchange student. He was taller than her with dark hair and worried eyes. This is crazy, Minho said. Why would they bring a creche here? Why not? Hannah shrugged. Everyone deserves an education. Hannah, they're predators. Not like Earth predators, like actually dangerous. So are humans, if you think about it, Hannah pointed out. We conquered our entire planet. We're persistence hunters. We're omnivores with forward-facing eyes, and we show our teeth when we're happy. Half the species here think we're creepy. Minho couldn't argue with that. Humans had a reputation at the academy for being unsettling. They befriended species that others avoided. They smiled constantly, which looked aggressive to prey species. They formed emotional attachments to anything that moved. Some students called it the human pack bonding instinct and treated it like a medical condition. Classes that day were distracted. Teachers tried to maintain normalcy, but everyone was talking about the creche student. Rumors spread through the corridors like wildfire. Some said the creche was 3 meters tall. Others claimed it had already eaten a student at its previous school. By lunchtime, the cafeteria was divided into clear camps. Those who planned to avoid the creche at all costs, and those who wanted to see it out of morbid curiosity. Hannah grabbed her tray of food and sat with Minho and a few other students. The Voltarian sitting across from her, a reptilian girl named Sola, was unusually quiet. You okay? Hannah asked. My parents called, Sola said softly. They want me to request a room transfer, far away from wherever the creche is housed. That seems extreme. Hannah, the creche hunted my species to near extinction 400 years ago. It's in our genetic memory. When we see them, our bodies just freeze. Prey response. Hannah felt bad for her friend but didn't know what to say. She couldn't imagine being afraid of something because of what its ancestors did centuries ago. Then again, she'd never been hunted to near extinction. The afternoon arrived too quickly. Hannah's last class was advanced linguistics, held in a circular room with desks arranged in rings. She was reviewing her notes when the door opened and Headmaster Vrockton entered. Behind him came something that made the entire class fall silent. The creche was small. That was Hannah's first thought. It barely reached her waist. Its chitinous armor was a dark purple color with lighter stripes. 4 arms folded close to its body, each ending in 3-fingered hands tipped with retractable claws. Its head was angular with compound eyes that refracted light in shifting patterns. Mandibles clicked nervously around its mouth. It looked terrified. "Class, this is Tick," Vrockton announced. "Please make him welcome." No one moved. No one spoke. Tick's compound eyes scanned the room, taking in the stares and the fear. His mandibles clicked faster. One of his clawed hands gripped his data tablet so tightly that Hana heard the casing crack. He was just a scared kid. Professor Lin, the human linguistics teacher, gestured to an empty seat at the back corner. "Please, Tick, sit anywhere you're comfortable." Tick walked to the back corner, his forearms held close to his body to make himself seem smaller. Students leaned away as he passed. The Pelvorian next to his assigned seat grabbed her things and moved 3 rows away. Tick sat down alone, isolated in a room full of people. Hana watched this and felt anger bubble in her chest. This was wrong. He was a child in a new place, and everyone was treating him like a monster before he'd even done anything. She knew what that felt like. On her first day at the academy, students had avoided her because Earth had a reputation for producing warriors and conquerors. It had taken months to make friends. The class continued, but Hana couldn't focus. She kept glancing back at Tick. He didn't participate. He didn't raise any of his 4 hands to answer questions. He just sat there trying to be invisible. When class ended, students fled quickly. Tick remained seated, letting everyone else leave first. Hana packed her things slowly, watching. Minho waited for her at the door. "Come on," he called. "We'll miss dinner." "Go ahead," Hana said. "I'll catch up." Minho left, shaking his head. Hana approached Tick's desk. He didn't look up, his compound eyes fixed on his data tablet. "Hey," Hana said. "I'm Hana. Welcome to the academy." Tick's mandibles stopped clicking. Slowly, he looked up at her. His eyes shifted through several colors, which Hana guessed meant he was processing emotions. "You are human," he said. His voice was surprisingly soft with a clicking undertone. "Yep. 2nd-year student. You need help finding the cafeteria? Why are you speaking to me?" The question caught Hana off guard. "Why wouldn't I? Your species is prey. I am predator. You should fear me." Hana pulled out the chair next to him and sat down. Tick's body tensed, but he didn't move away. "Here's the thing," Hana said. "I'm from Earth. We had lots of predators there. Big cats, bears, wolves, sharks. My ancestors didn't run from them. We learned to live with them. Some we even made into friends. So no, I'm not scared of you. You're just a student like me." Tick's mandibles quivered, which Hana would later learn meant he was confused. "Your species is strange." "Yeah, we get that a lot." Hana stood up. "Come on, I'll show you where the good food is in the cafeteria. Fair warning, though. Avoid the green pudding stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's not food." Tick gathered his things with all 4 arms, moving with surprising grace. "You will sit with me?" "Sure, that's what friends do." "We are friends?" Hana smiled, showing her teeth. In the back of her mind, she knew that was a threat display to most species, but she couldn't help it. "We are now." They walked together through the corridors. Students stared. Some whispered. A group of Pelvorians scattered when they approached. Tick's mandibles clicked with what Hana was learning to recognize as anxiety, but he kept walking beside her. In the cafeteria, the reaction was immediate. Tables emptied as they approached. A whole section cleared out when Tick entered their peripheral vision. Hana felt her anger rising again, but kept her face calm. She got her food, helped Tick figure out what his species could safely eat, and led him to a table near the windows overlooking space. They sat alone together, surrounded by empty tables. Minho watched from across the cafeteria with wide eyes. Other students whispered and pointed, but Hana ignored them all. She sat across from a small, scared alien child and talked about normal things. Classes, teachers, the weird texture of the food, small things that made him seem less like a monster and more like what he actually was. Just another student trying to survive high school. 2 weeks passed and Hana became the most talked about human at the academy. Not because she did anything dramatic, but because she refused to treat Tick any differently than her other friends. She saved him seats in classes. She ate lunch with him every day. She walked with him between buildings when other students still gave him a wide space in the hallways. Minho thought she was crazy. He said so at least 3 times a day. "You're making yourself a target," he told her as they walked to advanced mathematics. People are starting to avoid you too, Hana shrugged. Then they're not people I want to be friends with anyway. That's easy to say when you're human. Humans don't have natural predators. You don't understand what it's like to have instincts screaming at you to run. Maybe not, but I understand what it's like to be alone in a strange place. Remember my first month here? I ate lunch by myself for 3 weeks because everyone thought humans were aggressive. Minho sighed. That was different, was it? They reached the classroom. Tick was already there, sitting in his usual spot at the back. When he saw Hana, his mandibles clicked in what she now recognized as happiness. She'd been learning to read his expressions, and it turned out creche were pretty emotional once you knew what to look for. Good morning, Hana, Tick said. His galactic common was getting better every day. Morning, Tick. Did you finish the homework? Yes. The quantum equations were difficult. I had to use all 4 hands to write the solutions, Hana laughed. Show off. Other students filed in, maintaining their careful distance from Tick. The Pelvorian student sat on the opposite side of the room. A Grolvian student who'd been friendly with Hana before now barely acknowledged her. It stung a little, but Hana pushed the feeling aside. She'd made her choice. Class started. Professor Krell, a floating blob of energy contained in a crystalline suit, began explaining multidimensional calculus. Hana tried to follow along but got lost around the 5th dimension. She glanced at Tick's notes and saw he'd already solved the example problem. How are you so good at this? She whispered. Creche brains process spatial dimensions differently, Tick explained quietly. We evolved to track prey in 3-dimensional forest canopies. Mathematics is just applying the same instincts. Lucky. Human brains evolved to throw rocks really accurately, not as useful for calculus. Tick's mandibles quivered, which Hana had learned meant he was amused. He was laughing at her joke. That small gesture made her ridiculously happy. After class, they walked to the cafeteria together. It had become their routine. Tick still cleared rooms when he entered, but the reaction was getting slightly less dramatic. Some students now only moved 1 table away instead of fleeing entirely. Progress, Hana supposed. They got their food and sat at their usual spot by the windows. Today, Tick seemed quieter than normal. His 4 hands moved his food around his tray without eating much. You okay? Hana asked. I received a message from my clutch mother this morning, Tick said. She asked how I was adapting. What did you tell her? I told her I had made 1 friend. A human named Hana who does not fear me. Hana smiled. What did she say? She said she expected this. That she specifically chose this academy because humans attended here. Tick's compound eyes shifted to a darker shade. She said humans have a reputation for pack bonding with species that others reject. She gambled that one of you would give me a chance. Smart mom. I am a political experiment, Tick said softly. My clutch mother is an ambassador. She believes the creche need to change our relationship with the galactic community. She thought if I could succeed here, it would prove we are not just monsters. Hana put down her fork. Hey, you're not a monster. You're a person. Those are 2 different things. Your species is the only one that seems to understand that distinction. Then everyone else is missing out. You're a good friend, Tick. You help me with homework. You laugh at my terrible jokes, and you've never once judged me for being human. That's what matters. Tick's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of strong emotion. Why do humans do this? Pack bond with anything? My research says your species domesticated wolves, which are predators. You keep cats in your homes even though they are obligate carnivores. You form emotional attachments to plants, to rocks, to machines. Why? Hana thought about it. She'd never really questioned it before. It's just how humans were. I guess we're lonely, she said finally. We evolved as social creatures. We need connections. And somewhere along the way, we decided that family doesn't have to mean the same species. It just means the people you choose to care about. So I am your family now? If you want to be. Tick was quiet for a long moment. Then his mandibles made a soft clicking sound that Hana had never heard before. It was gentle, rhythmic, almost like a purr. On my world, Tick said, this sound means contentment, safety. We make it when we are with our clutch. I have not made this sound since I left home. Hana felt her chest tighten with emotion. I'm glad you feel safe with me. I do. You are very small and have no claws or armor. But you are the fiercest creature I have met. You bare your teeth at anyone who threatens your pack. This is very creche behavior. I think if you were born on my world, you would be a great hunter. I'll take that as a compliment. They finished their lunch in comfortable silence. watching ships come and go from the station through the massive windows. Hana noticed that Minho was sitting with some other human students across the cafeteria. He was watching her with a worried expression, but he gave her a small nod. Maybe he was starting to understand. The afternoon brought their shared class, Galactic History. It was taught by Professor Darwin, a Valorian with bright blue feathers and an attitude that Hana found irritating. He was old-fashioned, the kind of teacher who believed in traditional values, which usually meant being suspicious of anything different. Hana and Tick entered the classroom together. The moment Professor Darwin saw them, his crest feathers flattened against his head, a sign of displeasure in his species. "The creche will sit in the back," he announced before they'd even chosen seats. "There are no assigned seats in this class," Hana said calmly. "There are now. Back row. Away from the other students." Tick's mandibles went still. He started moving toward the back without argument. Hana grabbed one of his forearms gently. "We'll sit in the middle," she said firmly. "Together." Professor Darwin's feathers ruffled. "Miss Hana, I will not have you disrupting my class with your inappropriate attachments. The creche sits in back, or neither of you sits at all." "Fine." Hana turned and walked toward the door. Tick followed, confused. "Hana, where are we going?" "To file a complaint with the headmaster. That was discrimination based on species, which violates about 15 station regulations." They didn't make it to the headmaster's office. Professor Darwin called them back, his feathers smoothed with forced calm. He allowed them to sit in the middle row, but his disapproval was clear. Throughout the lesson, he made pointed comments about predatory species and the dangers of forgetting natural order. Each comment made Hana angrier, but she kept quiet. For now. After class, Tick was even quieter than before. They walked to the library to work on their shared project for cultural studies. The assignment was to research a species different from their own and present their findings. Hana had chosen to study the creche. Tick had chosen humans. They found a private study room and spread out their materials. Tick had 3 data tablets open simultaneously, his 4 hands making him incredibly efficient. Hana had her old-fashioned notebook and pen, which fascinated Tick to no end. "You physically write?" he asked, watching her take notes. "Helps me remember. Old Earth habit. Humans are very strange. You have technology that can record thoughts directly, but you choose to use sticks that leave marks on pressed plants. We're sentimental like that." They worked in silence for a while. Then Tick spoke suddenly. "Hana, why do you defend me? You have made yourself an outsider because of me. Other humans avoid you now. That Minho looks at you with worry. You could have many friends if you would just sit somewhere else." Hana looked up from her notes. "Tick, do you know what humans did back on Earth when someone tried to hurt a kid? Any kid, even if they weren't related? No. We protected them, fiercely, because that's what being human means. We protect those who can't protect themselves. We stand up for those who are pushed down. We adopt the ones everyone else abandons. It's not always logical or safe, but it's who we are." "Your species is going to change the galaxy," Tick said quietly. "My clutch mother says humans are the key to lasting peace because you see people instead of species." I did not understand what she meant until now. "Well, let's make sure we pass this class first. Then we can worry about galactic peace." Tick made his contentment sound again. They returned to their work, 2 young beings from opposite sides of the galaxy, brought together by one species' stubborn refusal to see monsters where there were only people. Outside the library window, stars glittered against the void. Ships traveled between worlds, carrying trade and information and sometimes prejudice. But inside that small study room, none of that mattered. There was just a human and a creche, learning about each other's worlds, building a friendship that neither had expected but both desperately needed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Professor Darwin's hostility was growing more obvious. Other students were starting to whisper about Hana's disturbing behavior, but tonight they had homework to finish and friendship to strengthen. That was enough. The next 3 weeks passed in a tense rhythm. Professor Darwin's galactic history class became a battleground of subtle hostility. He never openly attacked Tick, but his comments grew more pointed. He assigned readings about predator species aggression and lectured extensively on historical conflicts between herbivores and carnivores. Every lesson seemed designed to remind everyone that creche were dangerous. Hannah stopped raising her hand in his class. She knew he wouldn't call on her anyway. Instead, she took detailed notes of every discriminatory comment, every biased assignment, every time he made Tick feel unwelcome. She was building a case, waiting for the right moment. Tick never complained. He sat through each class with mandibles still, compound eyes fixed on his desk. Only Hannah noticed how his 4 hands would clench together under the table, claws digging into his own palms. She wanted to say something, to call out the professor's behavior, but Tick had asked her not to make waves. He didn't want to cause trouble for his clutch mother's diplomatic mission. But Hannah was getting tired of watching her friend suffer in silence. Minho had started sitting with them at lunch again. He'd realized that Hannah wasn't going to abandon Tick, so he might as well join them rather than lose his friend. A few other students had followed his lead. A Voltarian named Sola, who'd spent weeks avoiding them, finally approached their table one afternoon. "Can I sit here?" she asked nervously, her reptilian scales shifting colors. "Of course," Hannah said, surprised. Sola sat down carefully, keeping some distance from Tick. "I've been watching you both. My parents still want me to stay away, but I think they're wrong. Tick hasn't hurt anyone. He's just trying to learn like all of us." Tick's mandibles clicked softly. "Thank you. That means much to me." It was a small victory, but it felt huge. One person choosing to look past their fear. One person giving Tick a chance. Over the next few days, 2 more students joined their table, then 4. The group was still small, still surrounded by empty space, but it was growing. Professor Darwin noticed. His feathers ruffled with displeasure every time he saw their expanding lunch group. In class, his comments became sharper. Throughout history, he lectured one afternoon, civilized species have learned to separate themselves from predatory influences. Safety requires boundaries. Integration sounds noble in theory, but reality is often bloodier. Hannah's pen snapped in her hand. She'd been gripping it too tightly. Minho put a hand on her arm, a silent warning to stay calm. But Hannah's blood was boiling. She'd had enough. After class, she marched to the headmaster's office. Tick tried to follow, but she told him to go to the library. This was something she needed to do alone. Headmaster Vrockton's crystalline form shimmered as she entered. "Miss Hannah, what can I do for you?" Hannah placed her notebook on his desk. 3 weeks of documented discrimination, every incident carefully noted with dates and direct quotes. Professor Darwin is creating a hostile environment for Tick. This violates station regulations on species discrimination. I want him stopped. Vrockton read through her notes slowly. His crystalline face was impossible to read, but his body language suggested concern. These are serious accusations, he said finally. They're serious actions. Tick is being isolated and targeted because of what he is, not who he is. Isn't this academy supposed to be about breaking down those barriers? It is. However, Professor Darwin is a tenured faculty member with 40 years of service. I cannot simply dismiss his teaching methods based on one student's perspective. Even when those methods are discriminatory, I will speak with him. But Hannah, I must ask you to be patient. Change takes time. Hannah wanted to argue, but she knew it wouldn't help. She took her notebook and left, feeling frustrated and helpless. When she found Tick in the library, he was working on their next assignment, a group project for advanced behavioral studies. How did it go? He asked. He said he'll talk to Darwin, but I don't think anything will change. Thank you for trying. Tick's mandibles clicked softly. No one has ever defended me like this. Someone should have a long time ago. They worked on their project in silence. The assignment required analyzing pack behavior in different species. Hannah was writing about wolves. Tick was researching creche hunting groups. Minho had chosen meerkats, which made Hannah smile because he was basically a meerkat in human form, always watching for danger. The next day was advanced behavioral studies. Hannah arrived early, something she rarely did. She had a plan forming in her mind, something that would force everyone to see what she'd been seeing for weeks. Tick wasn't a threat. He was just a student who deserved the same respect as anyone else. She chose seats in the middle of the classroom, right in the center row. Not in back where Tick usually sat. Not hidden away where he could be ignored. Front and center. She put her bag on the seat beside her, saving it. Other students filed in, taking their usual places. Minho entered and saw where she was sitting. His eyes went wide. Hannah, what are you doing? Making a statement. This is advanced behavioral studies. Professor Darwin teaches this class. I know. Minho looked like he wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her face and just sighed. I'll sit behind you. For backup, thanks. More students arrived. The classroom filled up. Then Tick entered, his forearms carrying his materials. He scanned the room looking for Hana. When he saw her sitting in the middle section, his mandibles went still. She waved him over. Tick moved slowly through the aisles. Students tensed as he passed. A Pelvorian girl actually pulled her chair away, but Tick kept moving, his compound eyes fixed on Hana. He reached the empty seat beside her. Are you certain? He asked quietly. Completely. Sit down. Tick sat. The classroom went silent. Everyone was staring. Hana ignored them all, pulling out her notebook and acting like this was completely normal. Because it should be. Because there was no reason Tick should have to hide in the back corner like he didn't belong. Professor Darwin entered. He was reviewing something on his datapad and didn't notice the seating arrangement at first. He walked to the front of the class and began pulling up his lecture materials on the holographic display. Today we'll be discussing pack hierarchies and territorial behavior, he announced. Then he looked up. His feathers immediately flattened against his head. His bird-like eyes fixed on Tick, sitting in the middle row beside Hana. Absolutely not, he said. The classroom went even quieter if that was possible. Every student held their breath. Excuse me? Hana said calmly. The creche will move to the back of the classroom immediately. Why? For the safety of the other students. I will not have a predator in close proximity to vulnerable members of this class. Hana felt her heart pounding. This was it, the moment she'd been waiting for, even though she hadn't known it until now. Station regulations prohibit assigned seating based on species, she said clearly. Tick has every right to sit wherever he chooses. This is my classroom, Miss Hana. I determine what is safe and appropriate. The creche moves or you both leave. Tick started to stand. He was going to comply to avoid causing trouble. Hana put her hand on one of his forearms. No, she said firmly. We're not moving. Professor Darwin's crest rose, a sign of aggression in his species. You dare defy a direct order? Hana stood up slowly. Every prey species student in the room tensed, their instincts screaming danger. She felt the weight of all those eyes, the fear, the expectation that she would back down. But Hana had been raised by a grandmother who'd marched for civil rights. She'd been taught that some things were worth fighting for, even when it was scary, especially when it was scary. She looked Professor Darwin directly in the eyes. No blinking, no backing down. And she did something that came naturally to humans but terrified most other species. She smiled, lips pulled back, teeth showing. The ancient primate threat display. He stays, she said quietly. Right here beside me. And if you have a problem with that, we can take it up with Headmaster Vrockton. Again, with all of these witnesses. The smile wasn't friendly. It was the smile of a predator showing its weapons. It was a human telling another species that she was prepared to fight, not physically, but legally, socially, in every way that mattered. Professor Darwin took an involuntary step back. His feathers were completely flattened now, his body language screaming distress. Somewhere in his bird brain, prey instincts were firing. Run, hide, escape. Minho stood up behind Hana. She's right, Professor. This is discrimination. It's against station policy. Then Sola stood. Her scales rippled with nervous energy, but her voice was steady. I'm prey species. The creche sitting in front of me doesn't make me feel unsafe. Your prejudice does. Another student stood, then another. Not everyone. Many stayed seated, looking uncomfortable. But enough stood that the message was clear. Hana wasn't alone in this. Not anymore. Professor Darwin looked around the classroom, his feathers rustling with agitation. He was cornered. His authority was being challenged. And worse, students were recording this on their devices. This would spread across the station within hours. Class is dismissed, he said abruptly. Everyone out, now. Students gathered their things and filed out quickly. Hana didn't move. Neither did Tick. They sat there until the room emptied, until it was just them and the professor. You've made a serious mistake, Professor Darwin said coldly. No, Hana replied. You made the mistake. You forgot that this academy is supposed to teach us to be better than our instincts, to see past our fears. You forgot that being civilized means treating everyone with dignity, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. She stood, and Tick stood with her. They walked out together, leaving Professor Darwin standing alone in his empty classroom. In the hallway, Tick's mandibles clicked rapidly. Hannah, you showed your teeth. You challenged him. You made yourself very vulnerable. Yeah, well, that's what friends do. We bare our teeth for each other. Humans are terrifying, Tick said softly. But his mandibles were clicking in that content way that meant he felt safe, protected. They had no idea what consequences would come from this. But in that moment, walking through the corridors with her friend beside her, Hannah didn't care. Some things were worth fighting for. Some people were worth defending. And she would bare her teeth at anyone who tried to suggest otherwise. The summons came 3 hours later, a formal message from the disciplinary council, delivered to Hannah's personal device while she was eating dinner with Tick and their growing group of friends. The message was short and official. She was to appear before the council the next morning at 900 hours to answer charges of threatening behavior and disruption of academic activities. This is my fault, Tick said immediately, his mandibles clicking with distress. I should have just moved to the back. I should have— Stop, Hannah interrupted. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did I. Darwin is just angry that he got called out. Minho was reading the message over her shoulder. Hannah, this is serious. The disciplinary council can expel students. They can ban you from all Galactic Academy facilities. Then they'll have to explain why they're punishing someone for defending equal rights. You showed your teeth at a teacher. That's technically assault in some species cultures. Hannah laughed, but it sounded bitter. I smiled. Human smile. It's what we do. It's not my fault everyone else thinks it's threatening. But later that night, alone in her quarters, Hannah wasn't so confident. She lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, watching the stars drift past through her window. What if they really did expel her? What if she'd just ruined her entire academic future? Because she couldn't control her temper. No, she pushed the doubt away. She'd done the right thing. Even if it cost her. The next morning, she dressed carefully in her formal academy uniform. Navy blue with silver trim, the universal student outfit. She met Minho and Tick outside the administrative building. Tick looked terrible. His compound eyes were darker than usual, and his mandibles hadn't stopped clicking all morning. You do not have to do this, he said for the 10th time. You can say I made you uncomfortable, that you were trying to get away from me and Professor Darwin misunderstood. I will support this story. Tick, I'm not lying. What happened, happened. I'm not ashamed of it. Minho put a hand on her shoulder. We're coming with you. As witnesses. You don't have to— Anna, shut up. We're coming. She smiled. A real smile this time, not a threat display. Thanks. They entered the building together. The council chambers were on the top floor, a circular room with a high ceiling and windows overlooking the station. 3 beings sat behind a curved desk, Headmaster Vrockton in the center, a human woman Hannah didn't recognize on the left, and a massive centaur-like creature on the right. Professor Darwin was already there, his feathers smoothed and formal. He looked confident. Hannah felt her stomach tighten. Please be seated, Vrockton said, his crystalline voice echoing slightly. Hannah, Tick, and Minho sat in the chairs facing the council. The human woman leaned forward, studying Hannah with sharp eyes. I am Counselor Ava Kim, she said. I oversee student welfare and behavioral issues. This is Security Chief Rath, who handles safety protocols. She gestured to the centaur creature, who nodded solemnly. We're here to review an incident that occurred yesterday in Professor Darwin's Advanced Behavioral Studies class. It wasn't an incident, Hannah said. It was discrimination. Miss Hannah, please let us proceed formally, Vrockton said gently. Professor Darwin, please present your account. Professor Darwin stood, his posture rigid. Yesterday, the human student Hannah deliberately seated herself and the creche student Tick in the center of my classroom, despite established safety protocols. When I asked them to relocate, she refused. She then displayed aggressive behavior, showing her teeth in a threatening manner. This created a hostile environment and frightened several students. Established safety protocols? Hannah couldn't help herself. There are no established protocols. You made that up to justify discrimination. Miss Hannah, Counselor Kim said sharply. You'll have your turn to speak, Professor Darwin continued. The human has shown a disturbing pattern of attachment to the creche. She has isolated herself socially to maintain this inappropriate relationship. Her behavior yesterday was the culmination of weeks of defiance and poor judgment. I believe she poses a risk to the academic environment and should be removed from my classes at minimum. He sat down, looking satisfied. Hana's hands clenched in her lap. She wanted to jump up and shout, but Counselor Kim was watching her carefully. "Miss Hana," Frockton said. "Your turn. Please explain your actions." Hana stood slowly. She'd thought about what to say all night, but now the words came naturally. "I sat with my friend. That's it. That's all I did. Tick is a student at this academy, same as me. He has the right to sit wherever he wants. When Professor Darwin tried to force him to the back of the room, I refused. Because it was wrong." She pulled out her notebook and placed it on the desk. "For 3 weeks, I've documented Professor Darwin's discriminatory behavior. Biased assignments, hostile comments, creating an environment where Tick feels unwelcome and unsafe. Yesterday wasn't an isolated incident. It was the first time I decided to do something about it." "And the teeth?" Security Chief Rath asked, his voice surprisingly gentle for such a large being. "You did display your teeth?" I smiled. Humans smile when we're emotional. Sometimes when we're happy, sometimes when we're nervous, and yes, sometimes when we're angry. It's just a facial expression. I can't help that other species interpret it as threatening. "You knew how it would be interpreted," Professor Darwin interjected. "You deliberately intimidated me." I stood up for my friend. "If that intimidated you, maybe you should ask yourself why." Counselor Kim picked up Hana's notebook and began reading through it. Her expression remained neutral, but Hana saw her eyebrows raise a few times. After several minutes, she looked up. "Professor Darwin, did you repeatedly use the phrase predatory species in your lectures?" "It's a scientific term." "In a context that clearly referenced the creche student specifically?" "The context was historical education." "Did you assign readings exclusively focused on predator-prey conflicts?" Professor Darwin's feathers ruffled. "Relevant historical material." Counselor Kim set down the notebook. "This paints a concerning picture. However, we still must address Miss Hana's behavior. Minho, you were present. What did you observe?" Minho stood. Hana could see he was nervous, but his voice was steady. "I saw Hana defend her friend against unfair treatment. Professor Darwin has been hostile to Tick since he arrived. Yesterday, he demanded Tick move to the back for safety reasons that don't exist in any academy regulation. When Hana challenged him, she didn't threaten violence. She just refused to comply with discrimination." And she smiled, "Yeah, but humans smile all the time. It's not aggression. It's just how we communicate." "Thank you, Minho." Counselor Kim turned to Tick. "You've been very quiet. What is your perspective?" Tick stood, his forearms folded close to his body. "Hana is my only friend at this academy. She has protected me when no one else would even speak to me. She has shared her meals with me, helped me with my studies, and treated me like a person instead of a monster. Yesterday, when Professor Darwin tried to isolate me again, she refused to let it happen. She showed her teeth because she was defending her pack. This is human nature. They protect those they care about even when it is dangerous for them to do so." His mandibles clicked softly. "My clutch mother sent me here hoping this would happen. She researched human behavior extensively. She learned that humans are unique in the galaxy because they form bonds across species lines. They adopt creatures that would naturally be their prey or their predators. They choose family based on affection, not genetics. She gambled that if any species would give a creche child a chance, it would be humans." Counselor Kim's expression shifted slightly. Hana thought she saw approval there, or maybe respect. "She was correct," Tick continued. "Hana has changed my life. She has shown me that I can be more than what others fear. Because of her, other students are beginning to give me a chance. This would not have happened without her courage. If you punish her for defending me, you tell every student at this academy that discrimination is acceptable. That the powerful can oppress the vulnerable without consequence." The room was silent. Even Professor Darwin looked uncomfortable now. Tick sat back down, and Hana felt tears prick her eyes. She'd never heard him speak so eloquently, so passionately. Security Chief Rath spoke for the first time in several minutes. "I have reviewed station security footage. Miss Hana displayed her teeth, yes, but her body language was not aggressive. She did not advance toward Professor Darwin. She did not raise her voice above normal speaking volume. She simply stood her ground. In my professional opinion, this does not constitute threatening behavior." Brockton's crystalline form shimmered. "Counselor Kim, your assessment?" "I think we're looking at a failure on multiple levels. she said carefully. Professor Darwin failed to create an inclusive classroom environment. Miss Hana perhaps could have raised her concerns through official channels before it escalated. But ultimately, what I see here is a student defending another student against discrimination. The method was confrontational but not violent or truly threatening. She looked directly at Hana. However, Miss Hana, you need to understand something. Your actions, while motivated by loyalty, created a challenging situation. Not everyone will understand human pack-bonding behavior. Your smile, innocent to you, genuinely frightened Professor Darwin. Intent matters, but so does impact. I understand, Hana said quietly. But I'd do it again. If someone was treating Tick unfairly, I'd stand up for him again. That's not going to change. A small smile crossed Counselor Kim's face. I know, that's what makes you human. She turned to the other council members. My recommendation: no disciplinary action against Miss Hana or Tick. Mandatory cultural sensitivity training for Professor Darwin, with a formal warning about discriminatory teaching practices. And I suggest we implement academy-wide training on cross-species communication and bias recognition. Vrockton and Rath conferred quietly. Then Vrockton's voice rang out clearly. We accept Counselor Kim's recommendations. Miss Hana, Mr. Tick, you are free to go. No marks will be placed on your records. Professor Darwin, please report to Counselor Kim's office this afternoon to begin your training program. Professor Darwin looked like he wanted to argue, but he simply nodded stiffly and left the chamber. Outside, Hana finally let herself breathe. Minho hugged her tightly. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, she corrected. Tick's mandibles were clicking rapidly, his version of laughter or relief, or maybe both. Hana, you are the most terrifying and wonderful being I have ever met. You defended me against an authority figure. You risked your education for me. This is true pack behavior. That's what friends do. We protect each other. As they walked back across campus, Hana noticed something had changed. Students were watching them, but not with fear or judgment. Some looked curious. Others nodded respectfully. A human student she didn't know gave her a thumbs up. Word had spread fast, and the story was clear. A human had bared her teeth to protect her friend, and the system had supported her. Maybe, Hana thought, just maybe they were starting to change things. 3 months had passed since the disciplinary hearing, and Galactic Academy Station Zenith 7 looked different to Hana now. Or maybe she was just seeing it more clearly. The changes were subtle at first, but they were spreading like ripples across water. Professor Darwin's cultural sensitivity training had been mandatory for all faculty, not just him. Teachers who'd never questioned their assumptions about species were suddenly being asked to examine their biases. Some resisted, others embraced it. But the conversation had started, and that mattered. Hana sat in the cafeteria at what had become known across campus as the bridge table. The nickname had started as a joke, but it stuck. This was where species who normally avoided each other came together, where prey sat beside predators, where humans facilitated friendships that seemed impossible. Today, the table was crowded. Tick sat on Hana's right, his forearms managing 3 different meals simultaneously. He'd gained confidence over the months. His mandibles clicked freely now in conversation. He laughed at jokes, made jokes of his own, and no longer flinched when other students approached. Minho sat across from them, arguing good-naturedly with Sola about something related to their quantum physics homework. The Voltarian girl had become one of their closest friends, her initial fear of Tick completely gone. She now defended him as fiercely as Hana did. A Grolvian named Dex sat at the end of the table, massive and gentle, telling stories about his homeworld. Beside him was Kira, a Pelvorian whose entire family had begged her to stay away from Tick. She'd chosen friendship over fear. It had cost her relationship with her parents, at least temporarily, but she seemed happier than Hana had ever seen her. 2 more humans had joined their group. Jihoon was a first-year student who'd heard about Hana and specifically requested assignment to Zenith 7 because he wanted to be part of the human bridge-building thing. And Minji, a 3rd year who'd been at the academy longer than Hana, but had kept to herself until now. This is going to sound strange, Minji said, picking at her food, but I've been thinking about what makes humans different. Why we're the ones who do this pack bonding thing. Oh no, Minho groaned. Are we doing philosophy at lunch again? Shut up, I'm being serious, Minji leaned forward. Every species here evolved with specific survival strategies, right? The Pelvorians run, the Grolvians use size and strength, the Kresh hunt. But humans, we cooperated. We made alliances. We survived by convincing other species, even predators, to work with us instead of eating us. So we're naturally good at making friends? Jihoon asked. We're naturally good at seeing individuals instead of categories. That's our survival trait. It's why we domesticated wolves and horses and cats. It's why Hana looked at Tick and saw a scared kid instead of a dangerous predator. Tick's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. My clutch mother says humans will change the galaxy because you refuse to accept that species determines destiny. You believe anyone can be anything. Well, can't they? Hana asked. Most species do not think so. They see me and think predator, dangerous, avoid. They cannot imagine me as a mathematician or a teacher or a friend. But you did, from the first day. Because you are all those things. You're one of the smartest people I know. You help other students with homework. And yeah, you're definitely my friend. Hana's personal device buzzed. A message from Counselor Kim. Please come to my office when you have time. Someone wants to speak with you. Gotta go, Hana said, grabbing her tray. Some official thing. I'll catch up with you all later. She made her way through the corridors to the administrative building. Counselor Kim's office was small but comfortable, with artifacts from a dozen different worlds decorating the shelves. But Hana barely noticed the decorations because there was someone else in the office, someone she'd never met but recognized immediately from Tick's descriptions. The adult Kresh was massive, nearly 2.5 meters tall. Her chitinous armor was deep purple with gold markings. Her forearms moved with precise, controlled grace. Her compound eyes fixed on Hana with an intensity that would have terrified most beings. Hana, Counselor Kim said warmly, this is Ambassador Teka, Tick's clutch mother. The Kresh stepped forward. Hana's prey instincts screamed at her to run, but she pushed them down. This was Tick's mom. Just someone's mom wanting to talk about her kid. You are smaller than I expected, Ambassador Teka said. Her voice was deeper than Tick's, with more pronounced clicking undertones. My research said humans were persistence hunters, dangerous despite their size. But you look very fragile. I get that a lot, Hana said, trying to keep her voice steady. The ambassador's mandibles moved in what Hana had learned was a Kresh smile. My son speaks of you constantly, in every communication. Hana did this. Hana said that. Hana defended me. He has made you the center of his world. He's become the center of mine too, Hana admitted. He's a good friend. The best. You risked much for him. Your reputation, your academic standing. When that teacher challenged you, you showed your teeth and refused to back down. This is very Kresh behavior. If you were born to my species, you would be a clutch mother, a protector. Hana wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an observation, so she just said, thank you. Ambassador Teka moved to the window, looking out at the stars. I sent my son here knowing it would be difficult, knowing he would face fear and rejection. I did this because my species needs to change. We have been isolated too long. Feared too long. I knew that if any species could see past the monster to find the person, it would be humans. She turned back to Hana. You exceeded even my hopeful projections. You did not just befriend my son. You changed the entire social structure of this academy. You made others question their prejudices. You created a space where different species can coexist peacefully. This is what I hoped for, but I did not truly expect it. I just sat with him at lunch, Hana said, feeling uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone could have done it, but they did not. You did. Because humans see possibilities where others see barriers. Ambassador Teka's mandibles clicked rapidly. I have been communicating with other Kresh families. 3 more will send their children here next year. Because of you. Because you proved it was possible. Hana felt the weight of that responsibility settle on her shoulders. What if the next human students aren't like me? What if they don't want to be friends with Kresh? Then those children will face the same isolation Tick did. But I do not think that will happen. I have studied humans extensively. You pack bond. It is your nature. You cannot help yourselves, Counselor Kim laughed. She's not wrong. I've been working with human students for 15 years. You're all ridiculously friendly. It's actually one of your species' greatest strengths. Ambassador Teka approached Hana again. Slowly, she extended one of her forearms. Hana understood the gesture and reached out, letting the ambassador's clawed hand gently grasp her much smaller human hand. Thank you. the ambassador said simply. For seeing my son, for protecting him, for teaching others to do the same. You have done more for Kresh galactic relations than a decade of formal diplomacy. After the meeting, Hana walked back to her quarters in a daze. She'd just been thanked by an alien ambassador for being a good friend. How was that her life now? Her device buzzed again. A message in the general student forum had gone viral. Someone had posted a picture from lunch today. Their crowded table with humans and Kresh and Pelvorians and Grolvians all sitting together, laughing. The caption read, "This is what the future looks like." The comments were mixed. Some supportive, some critical, but overwhelmingly, students were talking about it, questioning why they'd accepted segregation as normal, asking why they'd never thought to sit with someone different. That evening, Hana found Tik in their usual study room in the library. He was working on an advanced mathematics problem, all four hands moving across multiple tablets simultaneously. Your mom came by today, Hana said, settling into her chair. Tik's hands froze. She did? Why did she not tell me? She wanted to meet me. To say thank you. For what? You are my friend. Friends do not need thanks, that's what I said. But she said I changed things. That more Kresh students are coming because of us. Tik set down his tablets and turned to face her fully. I know, she told me this too. I am supposed to be a symbol now. Proof that Kresh can integrate with galactic society. It is very heavy responsibility. Tell me about it. I just wanted to eat lunch with my friend. Now I'm apparently a bridge builder for interspecies relations. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Tik made his contentment sound, that soft clicking that meant he felt safe and happy. Hana, do you remember the first day? When you sat with me in the cafeteria and everyone stared? Yeah, you were terrified. I could see it in how your mandibles were clicking. I thought I would be alone forever, that no one would ever see me as anything but a monster. Then you sat down and asked if I was going to eat my food. Such a simple thing. But it changed everything. You changed things too. You showed everyone that Kresh aren't just hunters. You're kind and smart and funny. You're a good person, Tik. We are good together, you and me. The human and the Kresh. The two species who should be most afraid of each other but chose friendship instead. The end-of-term ceremony came 2 weeks later. The massive auditorium was packed with students, faculty, and families from across the galaxy. Hana sat with her lunch group, all of them in formal uniforms. Awards were given, achievements recognized. Then Headmaster Vrockton announced a special presentation. This year has been transformative for our academy. We have learned difficult lessons about inclusion, about bias, about the courage required to challenge unjust systems. One student exemplified these values through both academic excellence and social leadership. Tik's name was called. He stood slowly, his compound eyes shifting through several colors that Hana now knew indicated surprise and nervousness. He walked to the stage on his four legs, his chitinous armor gleaming under the lights. The Academic Excellence Medal, Vrockton announced, placing a ribbon around Tik's neck, for outstanding achievement in mathematics and quantum physics, but more than that, for showing us all what courage looks like. The applause was thunderous, not polite ceremony clapping. Real, genuine celebration. Hana clapped until her hands hurt, tears streaming down her face. Tik was given the opportunity to speak. He approached the podium, adjusting it down to his height with two of his four hands. I came to this academy afraid, he said, his voice carrying through the sound system. I was the first Kresh here, the first to try integration with other species. I expected isolation, rejection, fear, and at first that is what I received. He paused, his mandibles clicking softly. Then a human named Hana sat beside me in the cafeteria. She looked at me and saw a person. Not a predator, not a monster, a person. This simple act changed my life. It changed this academy. Tik looked directly at where Hana sat. Humans are strange. They pack bond with anything. They adopt species that should be enemies. They show their teeth not to threaten but to protect those they love. This makes them the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, and also the most kind. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. My clutch mother sent me here because she researched human behavior. She learned that humans refuse to accept that species determines destiny. They believe anyone can be anything. They see the individual before they see the category. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy. They build bridges where others build walls. Tik clicked his mandibles in what humans had learned was a Kresh gesture of deep respect. Because of one human's courage, I am not alone anymore. Because she dared to bare her teeth in my defense, others found their courage too. Because she chose friendship over fear. This academy is better. The galaxy is better. And I am better. He held up the medal. I accept this not just for myself, but for every student who has felt like an outsider. For every being who has been judged by their species, rather than their character. And especially for Hana, who taught me that monsters are made by how others see us, but people are made by how we choose to be. The applause this time was even louder. Students stood. Faculty members stood. Even some of the visiting families stood. Hana was crying openly now, not caring who saw. After the ceremony, their friend group gathered on an observation deck. Ships came and went from the station, streaks of light against the darkness of space. Earth was visible in the distance, small and blue. Next year will be interesting, Minho said. More creche students. More humans too, probably. All wanting to recreate what happened this year. It can't be recreated, Sola said. It was unique, special. No, Hana disagreed. It wasn't special. It was just right. And it can happen again. It should happen again. Everywhere. Tick moved beside her and Hana reached up to rest her hand on his chitinous shoulder. They stood together, looking at Earth. Your species will change everything, Tick said softly. You already are. You came from that small world and decided the galaxy needed more friends, not more enemies, not more barriers, more friends. And you were willing to bare your teeth to make it happen. We all were, Hana corrected. Everyone who sat at that table. Everyone who chose to see past their fear. That's not just human. That's just being decent, Jihoon laughed. Maybe, but humans are really good at it. Then we'll teach everyone else, Hana said. One lunch table at a time. Years later, scholars would study what became known as the Zenith 7 incident. They would analyze the social dynamics, the cultural implications, the political ramifications of one human student defending one creche student in a classroom. They would write papers about pack bonding behavior and cross-species friendship formation. They would create models and theories and frameworks, but they would miss the simple truth at the heart of it all. Sometimes changing the galaxy starts with sitting beside someone who's eating alone. Sometimes revolution looks like saving a seat. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in the universe is refusing to see monsters where there are only people. And sometimes, just sometimes, the scariest thing you can do is smile at the wrong person and dare them to make you stop. Hana stood on the observation deck with her friends, her pack, her chosen family. Behind them, the academy hummed with life and learning and the sound of different species finally talking to each other. Ahead of them, the galaxy spun on, full of possibilities. She'd come to Zenith 7 just wanting an education. She'd found something better. She'd found proof that fear could be overcome, that prejudice could be challenged, that friendship could bridge any divide. She'd found that humans weren't the only species capable of courage. They were just the ones who made it look easy. Tick clicked his mandibles beside her, the sound of contentment and safety and home. And Hana smiled, teeth showing, the ancient primate display that once meant threat but now meant something else entirely. It meant, this is my pack. These are my people, and I will defend them with everything I have. The galaxy had been warned. Humans were here. And they were making friends. Everyone else better get used to it.